Today we have Joshua chapter 5, preparation before victory. So, upon reading Joshua chapter 5, this is what we get out of it. But let me start off with this. What if the reason your breakthrough hasn't happened yet is because God is preparing you for it? In the book of Joshua chapter 5, it's a chapter of preparation before battle. Israel has crossed the Jordan River, but before they conquer Jericho, God stops them to address some spiritual matters. Now, this chapter is about consecration, covenant renewal, spiritual preparation, dependence on God, and divine leadership. And one of the most important lessons is this. Before God gives victory publicly, he often prepares his people privately. Let me give you several points here. Point number one, covenant commitment came before conquest. Now, Joshua 5:2 says, "At that time the Lord said unto Joshua, make thee sharp knives." The significance of that is the new generation had not been circumcised during the wilderness journey. And before Israel could possess the land, they needed to renew their covenant commitment. Now, the lesson from this is that God was more concerned with their spiritual condition rather than their military readiness. So before the battle, he dealt with their hearts. Point number two, Gilgal became a place of new beginnings. Joshua 5:9 says, "This day have I rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off of you." The significance of that is that the name Gilgal means rolling. God declared that the shame and reproach associated with Egypt had been removed. The lesson from this is that you can't fully embrace your future while carrying the identity of your past around. God wanted Israel to see themselves as his covenant people and not former slaves. Point number three, the manna stopped. In Joshua 5:12, it says, "And the manna ceased." The significance is that for 40 years, God fed Israel supernaturally in the wilderness. Now they would eat from the produce of the promised land. The lesson is that sometimes God changes how he provides, and the source remains God even when the method changes. See, many people struggle because they expect God to work tomorrow exactly as he worked yesterday. God doesn't run like that. He switches it up. He changes things up. Point number four, Israel celebrated the Passover. The significance is that before fighting Jericho, Israel paused to worship and remember. And the Passover reminded them where they came from, how God delivered them, and why they existed as a nation. See, worship came before warfare. Point number five, Joshua meets the commander of the Lord's army. Joshua 5:14 says, "As captain of the host of the Lord am I now come." The significance is this is one of the most powerful moments in the book. Joshua encounters a heavenly commander with a drawn sword. And Joshua asks, "Art thou for us or for our adversaries?" The answer is essentially neither. I have come representing the Lord. So the question isn't whether God is on your side. The question is whether we are on God's side. Point number six, Joshua learns who really is in charge. Joshua 5:15 says, "Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place wherein thou standest is holy." The significance is that this mirrors Moses at the burning bush. And Joshua was being reminded God is holy, God is leading, and the battle belongs to God. Joshua was the earthly leader, but God was the true commander. See, the major theme of Joshua chapter 5 is this. Spiritual preparation has to come before spiritual victory. Israel wanted to fight, and God wanted them prepared. And before the fall of Jericho, covenant was renewed, and worship was restored, and identity was established, and leadership was confirmed. See, Joshua chapter 5 teaches that God prepares his people spiritually before he gives them victory publicly. Joshua chapter 3 was about crossing over. Joshua chapter 4 was about remembering. And Joshua chapter 5 is about preparing. Before Joshua's walls came down in chapter 6, God first made sure his people were spiritually ready for the victory he was about to give them. So with that in mind, continue to renew your mind. Enough said.